Here to share her expert views are Kate Hardcastle, a retail expert. Good afternoon, Kate.
Hello, good afternoon.
So, has Mike Ashley got a plan here to save our stricken high streets before, I think he was saying 2030, the wall will come down?
Look, he has made some very salient points. He's certainly a character, and he's a Marmite-type character,
Yes.
so he's loved and loathed. He has a successful business, but his business has been born mainly out of buying brands that are bargain bucket brands and then selling them at quite high quantities, particularly through brands like Sports Direct. So you can't knock his retail success, and you can't knock some of the things that he said yesterday. But what concerns me is that it's not just one broad brush stroke to the solution here. And whilst I encourage and engage with anyone who wants to actually start doing something rather than talking about it, we've been talking about this for a decade now, Matthew. I actually am concerned that people do cite this purely as an online-offline equation, that just because of success online, consumers have flocked to it. They've flocked to it for many more reasons, including the fact that they're sick of parking charges, traffic wardens, accessibility, 9-5 shop opening hours, bad customer service, overpriced products, towns and city centres that don't feel safe or nice, retailers exactly like the one that Mike Ashley owns that perhaps haven't been dealing with customers in the fairest and most pleasant way. and therefore, it's not just they've chosen the internet because it was better and different. They've chosen it as an alternate to something they weren't happy with for many years. Many people are responsible for the downfall of the high street.
What about, though, following some of his broad brushstrokes that he delivered to MPs? Now, the government itself is minded to tax online retailers. Whether or not they're taxing them enough is a question. We've spoken before about business rates and whether they should be varied, maybe a slightly heavier tariffs for those who operate in sort of business parks and the like off the high street. So there's an idea there. The government's minded in that way. He wants a 20% tax. Does that sound fair?
You're absolutely right to highlight that, and many other retailers are calling for more stability, more fairness, a level playing field between online and offline. And many of them actually have and operate both businesses. Mike Ashley actually said that yesterday. Yep. It would hurt me if I actually had extra tax for my online business, but I'm prepared to see a resurgence. And quick, drastic sort of ripping the plaster off action needs to be taken. Again, as usual, Matthew, there's quite a few things underneath all of this. Yep. Internet businesses have high return rates, fashion up to 50%. So whilst a lot of these online businesses have, a lot of capitalists, venture capitalists behind them, a lot of cash being put in there at the moment, there's going to be a general evening out of things as people realise these are actually quite challenging ways to make cash. You're dealing with different sets of problems, different sets of logistic issues. We all know that we expect free delivery online. Well, delivery isn't free, and that's going to start costing them. So I'm sure they'll all put their case forward for why they shouldn't actually be taxed at that severity, because they have other costs that a traditional high street store doesn't have. But what I kind of have to wave the flag of is customers will or will not buy because they are influenced to do so by retail that is good enough. And I am saying that retail just isn't good enough. And that stands also for House of Fraser that's got leaking toilets and not great customer experience.
Well, on that very point, Kate, we've got, it was suggested on one of the television news broadcasts last night that the landlords around some House of Fraser department stores, where they were previously charging House of Fraser rent in the millions, could now be offering Mike Ashley the no charge at all. Now, it can't be a coincidence that House of Fraser was struggling if it was also having to pay out millions to its landlords.
A lot of these retailers, many, many years ago, struck up really long deals, 25-year deals at rent rates. They actually sold off property themselves because they wanted to boost the linings of the shareholder pay. This isn't a case of being able to go back into history books and say people behaved in a way that probably wasn't true and good for the organisation's long-term future. Therefore, let's just go and do some navel gazing there for a time. We have to make short, sharp action points to make a difference. But you can't just build a high street full of high street retailers that have had an easier time of it because their online competitors have been charged a heavier tax if the stuff isn't good enough, if your service isn't good enough, if your prices aren't good enough, eventually people will still look for alternatives.
I understand that, but if your landlord is rinsing you to the tune of a couple of million or more per year, and then you go out of business, and the next person to occupy that space has no charge or a minimal charge, then you can already see that, assuming the new business is successful, that perhaps the landlord's contributed to the decline of its predecessor.
Absolutely, the landlords are part of this mix, and business rates as well. It's a different set of rates completely. If you're running an online business, there's many people that have enjoyed a healthy cash windfall out of the state of the high street, which proves the point that in most retail boardrooms, the customer wasn't at the heart of everything they did, and they were looking to just find ways to get cash out of the business and milk the business. But we aren't going to have this future that Mike Ashley talks about if it's just a case of let's punish a different channel to market. It's got to be a case of building something that is exciting and engaging, that customers actually want to shop. They don't have to shop there, so they need to want to shop there. Okay. And that actually takes insight, it takes investment, and it takes a hell of a lot of care and attention from even people like local authorities who we've not mentioned, who have got their part to play.
Well, he went after them, didn't he, Mike Ashley, on the parking and public transport, etc.?
It's very true. It's very apt. If you feel frustrated that you're going to be paying nearly all of your disposable income just on parking, or you're worried about a traffic warden coming around the corner, it's not going to lead to the most pleasant experience. So you're going to go online. It's quicker, easier, more efficient. But at the moment, you're going to get better rates for deliveries. You're not going to be charged a premium that actually, a few years down the line, that's going to change. That is going to evolve.
Okay, I suspect you and Mike Ashley are on the same page with regards to the urgency, perhaps, of the reforms we need to see. I mean, the clock is definitely ticking here, isn't it?
Oh, so much so. This conversation has been going round and round for 10 years. We've had the reviews that have gone into government. We've had committees. We've had, I think I said this last time, but it just frustrates me to this day. We've got a High Streets Minister, and he's been in the role less than a year, but we've had 5 within as many years. We actually need to make a difference, because there are so many reasons we need community towns and centres other than retail. We need social places to go. We need communities, because we've got loneliness epidemics in this country. We've got people who can't go out and reach out to a friendly shopkeeper for coffee. You know, that enjoyment factor has got to be part of why we need to restore our towns and cities, not just because of the greed of a retailer.
So just to conclude, looking more closely, if we may, at Mike Ashley and his own ambitions, keen to sell Newcastle. He's fairly well supported with his Sports Direct, both online and in the high street. Is he hoping to push the government into taxing online businesses more heavily, going to get some kind of discount either on business rates or on the actual rent he's paying on the properties, persuade councils to make it easier for people to visit these stores? Is he setting himself up to become king of the high street?
He might be a kind of a tipping point. There's the last piece of straw of what many other brilliant people have been saying for a long time, but he can't do it single-handedly. You need a brilliant team of people that can understand all elements of what our new social high streets need to offer, and you need to do it with the customer first and foremost at mind. And I think that there would be a lot of doubters out there to think that Mike alone has that ability to always put the customer at his heart, because he's a very, very savvy businessman, and his business and his brands come first. So I would say as part of a balanced committee, but at least he's got the urgency, yes.
It's quite interesting. If he was to become the king of the high street, I suspect he would need a queen a bit like you, Kate Hardcastle. Lovely talking to you again. I love that passion and enthusiasm, and at times your frustrated anger is quite tangible. It's fabulous talking to you. Thank you, Kate Hardcastle.